I begin this video, I'd like to just say that this deck lid should have been replaced, or should be replaced. However, due to COVID-19, used auto parts businesses being closed, and the high cost of shipping one of these from eBay, we're going to fix it. Again, as you can see by the pictures at the beginning of this video, this guy should have been tossed. But after beating it around a little bit and manipulating it into shape, there was a bar across here, a metal bar across there that was bent. I straightened it out, put it back in there, pop riveted it. There was a giant crack right across here. This piece was broken out. This is a little bit messed up down here. The inside is all sort of messed up. It's got cracks. I'll show you that. But I put it together as best I could. These are pop rivets, and I just countersunk them a little bit so that when we go and put filler on this, we won't have little bumps and stuff like that. I'm not going to mess with this too much because I don't want to raise the surface by putting fiberglass cloth over the top of that. What we're going to do is strengthen the bottom side, dig out the hairline cracks, fix the bottom side, make that really sturdy, then flip it over, come around here, V these channels out, fix them with fiberglass, and then we'll go from there. And here's a view from the back side. This is that metal bar that was riveted back in. So that sort of holds it real nice and straight where it's supposed to be. Then we have all these cracks in the fiberglass. And what I'm going to do is use this type of bit here. I think it's an old end mill. But we're going to use that to dig out those cracks and make like a V or a bowl shape in those cracks. We're going to fill those with fiberglass cloth and resin. We're going to put a little bit of cloth over this part and maybe this part and right over that metal. And that's how we're going to do the backside. I decided to start with a burr type bit like this to grind out those hairline cracks or make somewhat of a V or valley in those cracks with this guy first. Then I moved to this guy. This guy really roughed them up. Then I ground all the surfaces, got the paint off as best I could, the flat surfaces, and then anything else that was left, I sandblasted them. Now we're going to cut pieces of fiberglass cloth, mix up the resin, and start applying those pieces. The next step is to apply the fiberglass resin and cloth, and it's good to wear gloves and a mask. So let's start. I'm going to start right here so you can clearly see. Got a little angle there, and we're just going to attach that right there like that, and we're just going to brush some resin on. And as long as you mix it right, you do have a good amount of time to work with it. Not all day, but once it starts hardening up, you got to empty this out and start with another batch because it'll harden up on you. And this is the fun part. You can just take your time, and it goes on real easy. Folds over nice. And then you can use a little brush to pack it in there. And when this stuff hardens, it's hard. And it's strong. And all you have to do is saturate it good enough so that it's all nice and wet. And that's good for that. And now I cut some long strips for right here. I gotta cut that a little short. We'll just make sure this stays mixed up. And like I said, it's good to wear the rubber gloves and a mask while you're doing this. Now this crack runs all the way from here all the way to here. So we're just going to lay this nice piece of cloth in there. Sort of bend her around. Oh yeah. And just tap her down there. Look at that. Beautiful. And I'll probably put two or three layers, maybe two, because this is a big spot. Probably get, bored putting it on. So 2 or 3 layers and you're good. And this will be the last piece right here. And we're just going to tap that guy down. Our stuff is gelling up. And we're going to let this harden overnight, and tomorrow this should be very rigid right here. I got a lot, actually I put a lot of layers on. I probably have 5 layers right in here because that was a critical point where it snapped, and so I put a lot of layers. So again, we'll let this harden up overnight, and tomorrow should be good and cured. And this is a close-up shot of the other side, or the top side. I used a grinder like this to grind a little bit further out and a little bit deeper so that we make sure that our repair is below this surface. We don't want it to come up here after we do the repair. Then, to go a little bit further out, I used a DA sander just to get this, just in case I got a little fiberglass out there. So I'm going to get a couple layers of fiberglass on here. I'll show you what it looks like before we do the filler. And here's a shot of the fiberglass after it was given 24 hours to set up. So it's good and hard. And then on the other side, same thing. The next step is to grind it or rough it up a bit so that we can apply some filler. And I'm going to be using a grinder like this, and this is 40 grit, and I have some gloves because fiberglass can get itchy, and it's a good idea to wear a mask also. And remember, this is low, so all I have to do is scratch it up. Now I'm going to get a smaller grinder so I can get in there, or maybe even sandpaper, DA the rest of this, then I'll be back to apply the filler. For the filler, I'm going to start with some kitty hair, which is fiberglass reinforced filler. So we're just going to hit the real critical areas with this. We're not going to spread it over the whole area, we're just going to hit the parts that are quite low, just to add strength. And we're just going to take this off, and then we'll finish it up with regular filler. And that sort of filled in our spots where we had major cracks. And again, I didn't spread it over the whole thing because I'm just taking care of the low areas. And that's good right there. And now we're just going to finish up with a nice layer of regular filler. So let me just check it, see if we can cheese grade this yet. And it's good. So I'm just going to start taking off the ridges. And this is a little short broken one. I'm just taking off the ridges right now, like where I spread. So just take that off. And then we're going to use the hog with 40 grit. It's a good opportunity for this tool because it's nice and flat, big and round. And now we'll just finish it up with a longboard. And that's it. I'm going to clean this up, DA sand it, give it a coat of primer, and I'll show you the finished panel. Today we're going to be spraying lacquer primer surfacer with a DeVilbiss MBC. It has a number 30 air cap and a 1.8 millimeter fluid tip. And incidentally, this little bit of light red is some glazing putty, and that's just filling in a few little air bubbles, little pits that I had. And this will be the last coat. After a few coats of primer, this panel is ready to be block sanded, primed again, finish sanded, and painted. I hope you enjoyed this video on fixing damaged fiberglass panels, and if you did, and you'd like to get my latest videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.